Thank you very much. The only reason I'm here really is because of Eastham. When I started doing this, the very first people I talked to were the people here. And they were so nice that Mark was beautiful. He was wonderful, wonderful. Julie was really good. It made me feel good, and I really decided I was going to write the book, do that.
Recording in progress.
Uh-oh. Oh, now I'm on. Okay, forget everything I said about nice people here. I volunteer at the Payomet also and a lot of other places. And the book came out last year, the first one, and it was relatively popular because it was never meant to be popular. I didn't think anybody would be interested in it. And it got some nice reviews and things like that, so that was really nice. And the Payomet started asking me, come on, present. And I don't shill my books. I'm not interested in selling books, even though we do have a deal. Such a deal we have. I kept on saying no, but then when Eastham asked me, I figured I'd have to because these guys have been so nice. And I could turn you all off to Eastham after the end of this. You may never want to come back. I did go to Payomet at the beginning of the season, which was really handy because I found out a little bit about what people wanted and what people didn't like. Okay? Now, so I figured out today, this is what I learned for them. They said they wanted to know something about me, and Julie was going to say all sorts of stuff about me, but I said no, because I'll talk about me later on. And they wanted to know about the book and how the book was put together, and I'll talk about that. Any problems I had with the book being put together. So far, I'm not listing any places, am I? Different things like that. And they wanted to know a little bit about some of the places that I've found. That will be interspersed. If you're here to sit down and write down the books here, the 50 places, because there are 2 books. You've probably seen them. They're back here, right? There's this one here, which was the original one last year. And then this year, this is a not for sale copy, but then there's this one here, which is another 25 of these things right here. Okay, I'm not going to go over and list them all. I might list some towards the end, but otherwise I'm going to kind of intersperse it, okay? All of a sudden I see some people are leaving. Okay, so the first thing I will do is talk about me, which I don't like to talk about. Then I'll talk about the book and the books and about why I did it and things like that. And then I will talk about the 3 discoveries I've made. But as I was thinking about, there's 4 discoveries I've made about this. And when I talk about some of these, I'll intersperse some of the places that I talk about or that are in the book. And maybe one that you haven't been to.
Wait.
Oh. And then I'll give you some examples if we get that far. In reality, I've got 3 different places I can stop at in here. So it depends upon whenever there was supposed to be a clock here, they said. Whenever I get to a place that she's got the hook, then I'll probably just stop. Okay. This was tough because I don't know what to do and I don't know what to say about myself because nothing in my early life, right? Has anything to do with the books at all. Nothing at all. Nothing. So I was trying to figure out I have to start somewhere. So I decided 1967. That was the year I was born. Come on. I get eye rolling over here. This one is coming up. Come on, give me a break. Okay. Now, in 1967, I had 2 degrees in biology, and I was teaching. There's nothing really about biology in the books. There's something about ticks, but then if you talk about Cape Cod, you have to do ticks. Nothing about mosquitoes. Poison ivy. And I think that's it. Cranberries. Oh yeah, cranberries. I did cranberries. Yeah. I talked about down in Harwich, Cahoes Canal. Have you been there at all? Okay. That's really where cranberry growing started. They would just pick them before that time, and they dug this canal. Do you know anything about this? They dug this canal about long canal, 500 feet or something like that, 5 feet wide or something like that. And They started moving, he started transplanting cranberries. They called it the cranberry yard. That's what he called it. It wasn't a bog or anything like that. And they had to dig this canal and all like that. It's very interesting, the whole story there. But when you talk about, you know, what's the #1 state for cranberries?
New Jersey.
Wisconsin, that's the #1 state. Yeah, we're way down. #1 is Wisconsin. For cranberries, yeah. And you can buy ocean spray cranberries from Wisconsin. Anyway, so I did that. What else did I do? Cranberry Bog House, that's right too. That's up in Truro. Thank you. I live in Truro. It's up in Truro. Has anybody been to the Cranberry Bog House at all? Okay, it's an interesting house, right? Because if you're on the first floor and you walk out, you go boom straight down. Because evidently they lifted the whole house up and put the bottom floor on it because they didn't, you know, you can't dig a cellar in a bog and you need more space. And they never closed off the doors on the outside. So if you look at it from, you know, the top part, it's a beautiful house and there's doors up there and everything else. But if you open the front door, boom, you go right down because they didn't put any steps to get down. Okay, you had to go down to the first floor, which is really the basement, and walk out there. So if you went to the kitchen upstairs, on the first floor, though you'd fall down it. No, it's a really interesting place. If you haven't been there, it's a beautiful walk if you're into walks. It's really nice for walking there, isn't it? They've got wonderful paths and stuff like that. I'm really thinking seriously. Catherine dos Passos. Anybody know who Catherine dos Passos is? I guess there's no writers in here. Any English teachers here? You got to know who Catherine dos Passos is. She's a writer. Okay, her husband John dos Passos?
Yeah.
Okay. She was killed by 2 tons of cranberries on Route 28 in Wareham. John lost an eye and she died. It's interesting if you want to read a really, this is 1947. If you want to read a really gross obituary, read the one from the New York Times. But it's interesting, they have this much about her, and then the rest of it's all about John. Okay? And then there's the one in the Boston paper is really kind of, they wouldn't print obituaries like either one of these things because they really got into the nitty-gritty on how she died and all that stuff. 2 tons of cranberries. Anyway, okay. I decided to write this book, okay? And I didn't realize until I was getting this down for Payomet in the beginning that it really is a historic book. Because if I'm talking about, you know, I don't know, a gravesite somewhere, you got to know the history of why it's there and everything else. So in reality, it's not this War of 1812 or something else like that. It's really these little things, 25 different pieces of history all around the Cape, you know. And it's not chronological. I started out way down in Sandwich, yeah, this was Sandwich, and I went all the way up to the end. And then I started out in Sandwich, the next one, and went all the way up to the end. And really, even though there's different numbers of, you know, the 3 different parts of the Cape, the Upper Cape, Middle Cape, and the Lower Cape, the Lower Cape, Middle Cape. Anyway, there's about 17 in each one, so it's about even though the books are not necessarily even about that. I wanted it to be interesting, but then I write interestingly, at least to myself. And it wasn't meant to be sold anywhere, really. I didn't really think anybody was going to buy it. It was really just one of these larky things. And I wanted it to be different. And you can see by this that it probably is a little bit different because I don't normally. I'm a little bit different in how I talk. Okay. I can't believe 1940. You didn't even realize 67. Okay. I wanted to have it places you heard about. Okay. But it's interesting. I was on the trolley. You know. I'm up at Province Lands, and I spend time in town, up in Provincetown and all. And I was at the Payomet, as I said, for a long time. And a lot of people in one town don't know what's happening in the other town. Okay? It's really creepy. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a bunch of places. We do the dead cat thing, you know, the dead cat thing. We'll talk about that. about stuff that's just in this area. And all of you should know about this stuff, and you'll say, of course, everybody knows about it. But since I knew I was going to come here, I've been asking people, people that live on the Cape, or summer residents, or stuff like that, about, they know about this in Eastham? Do they know about this in Eastham? Do they know where this is? And most of the people did not know about the places I will show you. And you look and scratch your head and say, how stupid are some of these people? Okay. Thank you. Okay, I wanted good stories too. I picked out some that were really good stories, which was kind of hard because some of them are not the best stories. But, and I tried to get the original narratives, okay? And this is good because when I talk about some of the pilgrims and all, and I talk about some of the Native Americans and all, it's interesting to read William Bradford's own words about this. And I put it in, I didn't put it in, the anglicized, the updated versions the way you get, but I went back, to the Library of Congress and all, I got this, and so that you read it, and the S's are like F's, except when they're not. So Massasoit is M-A-F-A-S. Anyway, like that. And sharp is F-H-A-R-P, but yet some of the other ones might start with an S and have an F in the middle, and all. It's really, and ye is ye, apostrophe E, and the wording is really strange, but it's really fun to read that. And then Deming Jarvis. Does anybody have any idea who Deming Jarvis is? Original narrative, Deming Jarvis. Deming Jarvis. He got a bunch of people over here and started a business west of here. Big business. Sandwich glass. That's not the name of the company, though. What's the name of the company? What's the name of the company?
Deming Glass.
No. It's the Boston and Sandwich Glass Company. Okay. Well, what he did was, he decided he was having a glass company. He came down here. He didn't want it because of all the sand, because the sand here wasn't any good. He had to import his sand from the Berkshires because that was the best sand. Because he just melts sand and they got glass like that. But it was kind of crummy looking when they tried it on the beach sand here. He had it because there were a lot of trees and stuff that they could, burn and stuff like that. And there was a lot of beach grass and stuff he could pick up and pack the glass in. That's why he had it here. He was a rather interesting person. He had to get all these people over from England and all these people over from Ireland so they could blow the glass, right? That's why they could blow the glass, I think. But also what he did was, some people were, pressing glass. They put this thing there, they put a thing of glass there, like that, and they'd have a plate or something. But that didn't work out very well, and it wasn't very good. So it was really Deming Jarvis, the guy who started that company, that really perfected, he's got all sorts of patents, pressing glass. Pressing glass. The first one he did was a cup plate. Okay? A cup plate is where you put your teacup. Okay? But a cup plate is where you put your teacup on. It's like a coaster when you drink your tea. How can you have your cup plate and your teacup here and then drink your tea? Go ahead.
Out of a saucer.
That's right. That's what they did. They drank their tea out of a saucer. Okay? And so he made a lot of money selling cup plates. That's the very first thing he did. And I put down some of the stuff he wrote. He had this thing. When they found out, the glass blowers went absolutely crazy. And for 6 weeks he would not go out of his house at all, go out to where he worked in the glass company. He was afraid they were going to kill him. And then for 6 months after that, he stayed in the house at night because he was really scared. And I wrote down some of the stuff he wrote about that. And it's really quite interesting in his own words how scared he was that these people were going to kill him, Anyway. And there's a whole bunch of other ones. Oh, did you do that? You did that. She's pretty good. And as I said, I want to cover the whole Cape because people that went into the Cape have no idea what's happening at the other end of the Cape. People when I did this in Truro, they didn't know about some things in Providence. They didn't know some things in Truro, you know. I was surprised. I mean, there are major things that most people should know in Truro, but they didn't know about that. Okay. And I wanted them fairly easy to get to. And most of them are fairly easy to get to. I put fairly because sometimes they're not that easy to get to. I think the first place I went to was the smallpox cemetery. Anybody go to the you must have gone to the smallpox cemetery.
You mean in Wellesley?
No.
Chatham?
Have you been to the one in Wellesley?
No, I have not.
Okay.
See, we should write a third book. Never mind. We could do that, though, you know. In Provincetown, the smallpox cemetery at all? Anybody been to the smallpox cemetery? Anybody know about the smallpox cemetery? Anybody, you know, you've never seen the pictures they had? They're really these, 4x4 stones with numbers carved in them, okay? Some of them are broken off. There's, you know, I guess there's, and some of them are, you can't find them anymore. I don't know if people stole them or stuff like that. Very easy to get to. I looked all over for that. I had directions and I had everything, and finally I just walked around and I found it. Okay, so you're driving up Provincetown, right? Like this. Okay, you come to the traffic light. Okay, you don't want to go right. You keep on going like this. On this side, you come to what is it? Shank Painter Road. You know where that is? That's where the Mac Seafood is, and that's where the gas station is, and that's where the Stop and Shop, which used to be an A&P and used to be a Grand Union, right? Wasn't it a Grand Union at one time? I don't know what it was before that. Okay, if you don't go down there and you keep on going about 500 or 600 feet, on the right-hand side there's a parking area, and there's this pathway like that. Okay, there's a sign that says, you know, value move or something like that for your dogs. So you walk up there. It takes about 20 minutes, and then you come to this chain. And there's this post, about a 6x6 post. It says, and in it says 1803, which is a really interesting story about why that's there. And there's this chain, and then if you look on the right-hand side, there's this hill. And there's a path up the hill. It's about as big as this room, maybe. And there's a path across the top of the hill, and then that's it. Well, if you go there, go over the chain, and then if you walk along, and you walk up the hill, walk across the hill, and walk down, and it's probably as long as this room, maybe a little longer, you'll come to the smallpox cemetery. It's that easy to get to. Okay. I mean, that is easy, right? You walk 20 minutes, you walk up, you know, and it's not a steep hill, and you're there. Okay? Some of them are a little harder. Some of them are right by the side of the road, right on the other side of stuff. Some of them are a little harder. West Barnstable Brick Company. Anybody know about the West Barnstable Brick Company? You ever been to the West Barnstable? Have you been there? Of course you has. Anybody know about the West Barnstable Brick Company at all? West Barnstable Brick Company, okay? Here's Route 6A. Everything's along 6A. And you can come up here, and there's the railroad track that comes up, and then it goes around, and there's, kind of a swampy area, boggy area. Then it comes back down like this. Okay, it's up in this boggy area right here, but there's a railroad track going right through it. We'll talk about the West Barnstable Brick Company sooner or later. Okay, go ahead. These are the books. Okay, this is that post. You probably can't see it. Whoops, I shouldn't touch this. There's a 10 on it, number 10. This is the original Cornhill Monument. We'll talk about that because it's not where you go in and say, this is the Cornhill Monument. It's under a tree up the street. Have you been to that one at all? Been there, done that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. We're sorry.
Cornhill Monument?
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
And the
Up the street. Jenny Lynn Tower is the easiest. Anybody been to the Jenny Lynn Tower? The easiest place to get to, right? You go to the Payomet, right? And there's a big ball field on the right. If you were there last, during COVID, they had their shows in the ball field over here. And you can park it over there. And then there's a road that goes up. And there used to be a sign that says, no trespassing government property. Remember that? Yeah, it's not there anymore. I don't know if somebody's stolen it. Okay. You walk up to the end. You have to take a left. You walk over to the end. You have to take a right. You walk up to the end. So it's left, right. And then you can keep on going. But if you go left, you can walk right into the woods. And it's right there. Very easy to get to. Very, very easy to get to. Easy. Oh yeah, well, we can, anybody, you been to Ballstown? You been up to Ball's mansion up there?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, okay. Has anybody been to the old Ball's mansion at all up there? It's not there anymore. Do you know Ballstown at all? You know where that is?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, Ballston Beach is now Ball. It was Ballstown, yeah.
Oh, Ballstown.
Yeah, it used to be Ballstown because a guy by the name of Ball put in this complex of cabins there in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was a complex there. Interesting enough, that's where the water keeps on breaking through, remember? And they're putting all this stuff there. Thoreau wrote in 1850 that the people would talk about every time the tide got high, the water would break through there anyway. So it's not this new thing that's happening in the past 20 years because of the storms or anything. It's always broken through there. Anyway. Okay, we can continue on. 3 discoveries. These are my 3 discoveries. History is everywhere, like Chicken Man. History is everywhere. I mean, you can't go 10 feet without finding history around you. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Now here we have the dead cat thing. Have you ever heard of the dead cat thing? You take a dead cat, you swing it over your head, and you let it go, and something happens, right? If you're in Provincetown, you swing it over your head, maybe that should be turned off. If you hit a Republican, it's real, you'll never hit a Republican, right? Okay, so something like that. Now this is, we'll say we're in here with a dead cat, and we're swinging it over our head and releasing it, okay? These are places that most of the people I talked to had no idea about. Do the first one. Nobody had any idea. I asked them about it. I asked them if they knew who the Hysterical Society was. They had no idea. Okay, go to the next one. Nobody knew about this. Okay, and yeah, they know something about, what is this thing here? Salt pond. Yeah, this is, of course, it's right across the street. You should know that. Right, okay. It's a kettle pond. They don't know what a kettle pond is. And if they do, they say, oh yeah, if you're still driving up to Provincetown, okay? You hit the traffic light, and you hang a right? Because you're going to the visitor center. On the left-hand side, there's that big pond, right? Mary Oliver, anybody know who Mary Oliver was? Very famous poet, very famous poet. She lived, you know where Fanazzi's is? Fanazzi's? She lived right next door to there. There's a parking lot on the right of Fanazzi's, and she lived right there. I think it's 535 Commercial Street. But she used to walk around the pond up there writing her poetry. There is something about this in the book, that's why I was just talking about this. And people say, oh, that's a kettle pond. Is that a kettle pond? No. You know that because I'm saying it. Why would that not be a kettle pond?
It's not glacial.
No.
Not glacial.
Huh?
Not glacial.
It's not glacial. That's right, it's not glacial, right? Here you have Cape Cod, right? Oh, everything here, 20,000 years ago, it's from the glacier, chunks of ice stay there, and then everything melts, and lo and behold, that chunk of ice is still there, makes a hole and all that stuff. Kettle pond, okay? Up here, it's not, right?
Yeah.
This isn't glacial in Provincetown? No. We can talk back and forth. Okay, no, it's not, okay? This is Eastham up here. This is Wellfleet up here. This is Truro up here. That's it. When you walk along there, right, you're driving along the road, Route 6, and all of a sudden, you start going down the hill in North Truro, and lo and behold, there is Nirvana. Right? There is Provincetown. You see the pond over here. It used to be called Pilgrim Pond. Before that, it was East Harbor. Now it's back to East Harbor again. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. All that sand that's washed off of your shoreline. Okay. From there on, it's all sand. It shouldn't be there. Okay. It's all sand. So that pond on the left, after you hit that traffic light and go there, just happens to be a depression where there's water in it. That's all it is. It's not a pond. But everybody up there who thinks they know about this. Anyway. Okay, next thing. I think Cedar Bank, you know about Cedar Bank links, right? Okay, John Quincy Shaw, 15 and all, and they locked him up for a while, And 10 years later, he got out of this institution. He had a breakdown. You know this whole story, though, right? He got out of there, and the doctor says, find something to do. And he said, I am going to make a golf course. So he ended up getting, what was it, Sparrow? What was his name? Dan Sparrow. He ended up getting Dan Sparrow's horse, Jerry. I don't know why the horse is so famous. And they built this golf course. This is the first thing that I asked you about. This is the very first thing I asked her about. And she was so nice about it. But anyway, you know where we are, right? Right, we're down here. Here's the visitor center. This is Route 60. There's the town hall here. Windmill would be over here, okay? Like that. People don't know, of course. You kind of wonder, yeah, they probably would know about that, okay? Even though most of you people should know. You had somebody, who was it?
Mark McGrath.
Pardon me?
Mark McGrath.
Mark McGrath. Did anybody go to his talk last year?
Yeah.
Mark McGrath. It was very interesting. In the book here, I have a lot more history stuff. He had a lot of stuff, really was almost like about a golf game and stuff. And there was history involved in it too. It was really interesting. It was very, very interesting. Anybody know Mark McGrath?
I do.
Okay, but anyway, nobody up there, they know. This you can see. Go ahead. We'll go through some of these other ones. Okay, if you were an Olympic thrower with a cat, what do you get? Hit this. Okay, of course. Don't. Okay. People have no idea, and if they do, they say, yeah, it's some kind of a thing down there. The people don't. Next, I'm really serious. People in Wellfleet have no idea what this is. No idea what this is. Next one. Okay. Oh yeah, they say they're not saying what it is.
Stone Homestead.
It's a Dome Homestead. Yeah, it's just past the rock and around the corner. If you've never been up there, you should walk around there. It's very interesting. Go ahead, next one. Okay, next one. Okay, okay, next one. Okay, if you have a small cannon, next one. We'll go through this quickly. Okay, nobody, they know it's a place. They know it's for whale and stuff like this, but they don't know that much about it. It's really interesting. And I mean, there are people right down in Orleans that I talked to, and they were right by the border, and they had no idea. Yeah, there's some weird stuff. No, really. But, Okay, next one. I asked some Native Americans about this. Okay, some Cape Cod Native Americans, they did not know what this was, or they never heard of it. What is it?
Sharpened rock.
Yes, what is it, a community rock or something like that? Yeah, community stone, okay, it's up there, and there's big grooves in here where the generations of Native Americans would actually, sharpen different things and all like that. Okay? Very few people know about that. Okay, next one. Okay, so if you're driving past the Penniman House, High Penniman House, and you go down the bottom on the left-hand side, there's the parking area, and then this thing goes up. There like that, right? Okay. What is this thing here?
I don't know.
What is that thing? Anybody ever look at it? Yeah. What is it? Anybody ever? Okay, try the next one. There's a T in it. Have you ever seen the T in it? Okay. Samuel Treat, who was a very, very famous pastor. That was the edge of his property. Okay, that was the edge of his. The Native Americans loved him. It's a great story. You should read it. It's really neat. He had this wonderful gravestone with this long, long thing written on it, which is really quite interesting the way it was written and all. And some people stole it, and then they found it and they put another stone in its place. And they found it a couple of years later, and they gave it to a library in Orleans for safekeeping. But then in 1952, the library had a big fire, and the rock was destroyed. So now they have a little rock that just says a couple of things. But one thing that it did say on Samuel Treat's original gravestone, blah, 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 blah. It's very funny to read. I have the whole thing in there. But he fell asleep in Christ, March ye 18, 1716/17. Now this is one of the problems I hit a lot of times. What year is it? Did they not know when he died?
Different calendar.
Okay. Yeah, there's different calendars. What day, when did the strangers and the Puritans arrive in Provincetown? Some people don't know. That's because it's Provincetown, it's not here. What, your 16th wedding anniversary? 1620, yes. What's the date? Do you have any idea of the date?
December.
November something. We're getting down there closer. Getting down there closer. November what?
11.
That's true. November 100% true.
I get a gold star.
Yes, but what's the date?
21.
21. You're right. That's right. November 11th, OS, old style. November 21, NS. You ever see that? NS? Okay. Okay. OS, old style. There's about 10 days of difference. Okay. Back in, okay. Old style. If you were on the Mayflower, it would have been, which one? OS. Would have been on the 11th. Now it's 13 days different. It was 10 days back then. So we have, this is what? The 29th of August? NS. What would it be? OS. 13 days before, so we'd have still 2 more weeks of summer coming. I just thought of that. That'd be really cool. Anyway, yeah, because OS was old style, okay? That was Julian calendar, okay? 46 BCE, I think he had it. Julian calendar. But then the Pope Gregory, I'm going to make sure I get this right, 1582, decided that that wasn't right, things didn't line up, and he came out with his own calendar. Okay? But the problem is, boom, they didn't just change it then. They started changing, and some of them changed, and some of them didn't change, and some of them changed. As a matter of fact, Russia didn't change until 1918 to the new style. The Greeks, it wasn't until the 1920s. And some people said, that I've heard from other people, I guess the Greek Orthodox, some of the Greek Orthodox churches still use the old style calendar, which is interesting. Oh, here you go. Now, 1752 is the date that the British finally said, okay, we're switching to the new style calendar. 1752. This was an interest, and this is one of the reasons why the years are screwed up because, well, the reason is, when is New Year's Day? Come on, this is not a trick question. When is New, hi everybody, when is New Year's Day? January 1st, thank you, Kathy. January 1st is New Year's Day. Okay, and that's when it was in 1752, January 1st. 1752. What about in 1751 in England? And all before that, when was New Year's Day? March 25th. Okay, so March was kind of this never month, and sometimes people would put it into 1777 or 1717, because they didn't really know what calendar to use and how it would fit in there, because New Year's was, you know, yeah. Okay. So it wasn't the new year until that day, even though it was like that. And it's funny because in 1752, of course, the British were very, or the whole UK area, well, they were good because, they figured, well, we are good. We are going to follow the crowd. We are going to do what we should do. We will be wonderful people. And so on January 1st, they celebrated New Year's Day. And they had all the accoutrements the night before and had their good old time and like that. But then they were nostalgic about how bad, the old days. So on March 25th, they set a second New Year's Day. And then that kind of died out after a while, but they actually used it. But Samuel Tree. Okay, look at that. 1 page is down out of 10. Okay, go to the next one. But nobody knows about those places. Nobody knows about. Okay, go ahead. So my 3 discoveries, history's everywhere, okay? I mean, there's a lot of it. Okay, next one. Oh, never let, I heard this when I was on the trolley. All right, have you ever heard this, never let the facts get in the way of a good story? Okay. Now, my wife and I were in Romania last year, and we were going to Dracula's castle. Okay, so we're on the bus, and there's this tour guide there, young tour guide, but then everybody's younger than I am. And she said, this is not really Dracula's castle, you know. We don't really know, even though they have an idea. It's up in a valley on another side. And there's an actual pathway to it, but they don't want tourists to go there because there's bears around and they kill people evidently. So they have this Dracula's castle that you see even on Viking ads coming. Okay, she said, well, we never let, exactly that. She said that on the bus. Okay, because people like that. And then we were in Wales, I guess, and when we were in Wales in the spring, we're not big travelers, seriously. We were in, our tour guide had a tour guide in from Wales, and the first thing he said was, he's going to talk to us about Wales, and he said exactly the same words, and all. And that's true. So I got two quick stories that, go ahead, do the next one. Okay, just very quick stories, go ahead. Okay, you heard this one about the Sandwich Brickyard at all? There's a brickyard in Sandwich, and they said in 1812 the British frigate HMS Commodore Hardy was sailing around there, and they said they were looking through their spyglass, and they said, ah, look at that. They knew there was a Sandwich Brickyard. They said, oh, no, it's a fort. And since that time, they never sailed anywhere within 5 miles of Sandwich. That's not really true. There was a vice commander, Hardy, H-A-R-D-Y, who was, during 1812, and he was in the area, who was on the HMS Ramulus, R-A-M-I-L-L-E-U-S. But he was not even supposed to be near Sandwich at all. But you read that all the time when they talk about other parts of the Cape. They always talk about, just like in the Brickyard. Okay, next one. Oh. Sacrum Iano. Does anybody know how this is pronounced at all? Anybody know who this person is? Iano. Who is it?
Sachem Iano.
Huh?
Sachem Iano.
Sachem Iano. That's who it is. Okay. Interesting person, okay? Very interesting, especially if you read some of the old accounts. He was a leader of one of the groups down here, and Sachem is a leader or tribal leader or chieftain or something like that, okay? He was in his 20s, young guy, wonderful person, wonderful person. He did all sorts of stuff. There's wonderful, if you read some of these old things that William Bradford said and stuff, you must have read some of them, it's just so neat how nice he was. They loved him, and then everybody did that. But then there was a problem, the way that somewhere around, 1623, something like that. It was not good. There was a fight, and the way they always have these things. So the story goes, he ran into a swamp and stayed there, and either he starved to death or he got bitten by something, or he died. And he got buried. Okay. 1623 this happened. Okay? 1623. Well, 1860, it's a little while later, down the street, 1620, down the street, people were clearing their field, these two guys, and boom, they go over and they hit a pot. And they go and think, oh, look at this, a big pot. They pull the pot back and there's somebody sitting there. Well, somebody wasn't sitting there, they were buried there, okay? And there were some axes and stuff up here, and they figured, aha, it had to be after a certain date, because it was during this date that they knew it was a Native American, because there was also some, bows and arrows and stuff like that. And they said it had to be after a certain date because they wouldn't have had these tools. And it had to be somebody that was really important because they wouldn't have these things buried with them. But it had to be in a very short time frame because after a certain date, the Native Americans were all Christians, okay? And Christians, one, were not buried standing up. And two, were not buried with all this stuff, okay? I'm not going to bury, you know, Uncle Jimmy's axe because I can use Uncle Jimmy's axe. So they didn't bury them. As a matter of fact, the early people here, a lot of times they were buried without clothes. They buried naked. I mean, you know, how long is it going to take to make a dress, right? You have to get the stuff, you have to get the linen, you have to do all the scraping, you have to do all of this stuff, you have to do the weaving, you have to do all this stuff. So they were just buried naked, a lot of them, because, hey, I can use the dress. I can't use the dress, that's the problem. Anyway, you know, okay, you know, they did that, okay? So anyway, so they gathered the bones and everything up, and they put it in a box and stuff like that. And it ended up at the museum in Plymouth. And you figured, gee, that's not good, you know? But it's hard to, a couple of things, you know, you really can't think about the past using, you know, our mores here, you know? And it was probably a good thing they did it because they probably would have lost them. Anyway, so they were over there. So the guy down there was looking at it, and he said, you know something, there's one problem here. These are the bones of a young woman. Well, let's see. You can still go, so they eventually gave them back and they buried them there. I think I have it in here. I think it's in this one. Yes, the sign that's by the road, still today, even though they didn't really, I mean, they didn't have DNA, it's too bad they didn't leave something that they could check. But the sign that's right by the road down the street says, let's see, north of here, a tablet marks the grave of I know. Okay. An Indian sacred, who aided the pilgrims in 1621. From him, Hyannis and Wiano, I got that right, okay, derived their names. Okay. And now they're wondering if that's true, and some of these names might have come from his son, Hanno. They really have no, there's a lot of things that are named after him. But I left that one in there because the guy was so nice, but it's one of these things you really don't know necessarily. Let's try the next one. Oh, I just put this in because I was up there and everything. Anybody hear the Martin House at all? You know where that is at all? It's up by the boat slip in Provincetown. Next to it, there's well, it's the front of the house, but there's no door because the doors are really facing the water. And I have heard since 1967 that this is haunted. I have heard since 1967 that's part of the Underground Railroad. It probably was not because the Underground Railroad never really was in Provincetown. And 2 or 3 years ago we were sitting at Independence Day Parade, and I was talking to the guys that were selling the house at that time, and they said, you know, we've had this house for 25 years or whatever it was, and we got it as a, you know, restaurant that was out of business, and we've never seen any ghosts or anything, and I've been up here at night, and we've done all this stuff, and, you know, we've never in 25 years seen any kind of ghosts or anything. So, whether that's true or not, but you can go up there now and they'll still do that. But they're good stories, and there's a million of these. Go ahead, next one. Go ahead. Okay, so that's, go ahead, next one, next one, next one. Okay. You can't just do one record of an event. That's another thing I found out. Do the next one. Some of these are rather easy. Go ahead. Handwritten records. If you look at these old records, it's kind of difficult to figure out which ones are correct. Some of them are perfect handwriting, and you can read them. Some of them are not, and you look at them and you can't tell the spelling or anything. The dates are different and everything else. Next one. Oh, I just put this one in Ballston Beach, right? Because that's Ballstown Beach, okay? Ballstown, it was the everything. Parmet River, so in 1883, all the official records said it was the Parmet River, but then in 85 they switched it to the Parmet River. You know where that the river is up there in Ballston Beach? Okay. Then they switched it back to the Parmet River. Then they switched it back to the Parmet River. And sometimes but this is an easy one. Some of them are really nutso, and they changed the names. So I had trouble. It was not an easy thing to put together. Sagamore Hill Historic Site. You've been to the Sagamore Hill Historic Site, right? That's where the 241st Artillery Unit was stationed. It's on the other side of the Sagamore Bridge. You drive over the Sagamore Bridge. That's the one that protected the canal from the Germans during World War II. Okay, very interesting place. I think we have some pictures of it later on. Sagamore Hill Historic Site. And the sign says Sagamore Hill Historic Site, okay? Sagamore, you know where that is, okay? What is Sagamore? Where's the town hall? What is Sagamore?
Part of board.
Sagamore is a census-designated area where? In Bourne, okay? In Bourne. Just like Buzzards Bay, there's no such thing as Buzzard. It's a census-designated area, part of Bourne, okay? So the Sagamore Hill Historic Site, and it says it right there for the 241st Artillery thing, so you're going to visit it, is there, okay? But really, it's Sagamore, but it's really, where's it located? It's not located in Bourne, no. The Sagamore Hill Historic Site, where the 241st Artillery thing is in Sandwich. Because, you know, I drive over the bridge, hang a right to get off at the McDonald's so I can go potty, so I can get a cup of coffee for the rest of the trip. If you kept on going straight, then you come to this Sagamore Hill. But then there's a line there. That whole part, even though you're in Sagamore, which is really Bourne, you're driving into Sandwich, because Sandwich is over there. Okay? And some of this gets really messed up when you're trying to do some of this history stuff. Okay, good. Okay, official records, yeah. Attack at Orleans. I write about the attack at Orleans and all. You know, where did the planes come from?
Chatham.
Chatham. Yeah, there was a big Chatham Naval Air Station down here. It was one of the first during World War II. During World War I, pardon me. They got the planes in pieces on railroad. They put them on carts. They brought them in, and they built them right there. Okay. Official records. Official records. Some of them say there were 2 planes. True, there were 2 planes. They always sent 2 planes up. Some of them said there were 4 planes. True, because when the 2 planes went up, they always had 2 planes on the ground in case something happened to the 2 planes that were up. Okay? This was really not quite the case because I guess it was a minesweeper or something was up in Provincetown at the time. So most of the people from the Chatham Naval Air Station they had a baseball game in Provincetown at the time when this was happening. But there were still 2 people there that in theory could fly the planes up there. Okay? Some of them say 9 planes. Now I really have seen, there's Coast Guard thing that says 9, I have no idea why it says 9 planes. Now, 2 planes. So they sent these 2 planes up, okay? One plane had a radio. And these were well-built planes, probably Boeings. And this is going to go live and it'll take away my frequency. Okay. They had a radio back to the base back here every so often to say they're still up in the air. How often do you think state-of-the-art World War II Navy planes had to radio back down to here, to the air base, to the naval base? How often? Every 20 minutes. No. Every 20 minutes. This is state-of-the-art planes. Never? No. Every 10 minutes they had a radio back. Every 10 minutes they had a radio back and say, hey, we're still in the air. Okay, interestingly enough, only one of the 2 planes had radios. Yeah, one of the 2 planes had a radio. The other plane could communicate. How did the other plane communicate? Pardon me? No. The other plane carried carrier pigeons. Okay? Half the carrier pigeons at the base here, they had a big pigeon coop. It wasn't for squab or anything like that. Right? They were trained to fly back from this area. Half of them were trained to fly back from this area. So these 2 planes, when they were trying to drop the bombs, some were kind of desert stuff. One guy had the radio every 10 minutes, and if something happened, the other guy could send carrier pigeons back. What are you going to say? Okay, Cocoon Hollow, there's a a page of the Coast Guard, one of the manuals I saw, and it says United States Coast Guard, it says .gov, and it says this is an official page of the United States government or something like that. They had Cahoon Hollow spelled differently twice. They had 3 pictures of Cahoon Hollow Life-Saving Station, which is what? It's probably saved some of your life on hot summer days.
Beachcomber.
Beachcomber. He was a maneuver. Beachcomber. Beachcomber. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. On the same page, they have a picture of the beachcomber, well, of Cahoon Hollow Life Saving, and it says Cahoon Hollow Life Saving Station. They have the same freaking postcard, because they're postcards. The same one, and it says Cahoon Hollow Life Saving Station, but it's apostrophe S. Okay? So sometimes they spell these wrong. Next thing, quick. Oh, gravestones. Here's poor Catherine dos Passos. I knew I'd get back to her with her 2 tons of cranberries. Okay, marriage, death certificates and all, 1894 to 1947. That's what they say. No, that's probably not true, because it probably wouldn't be on the marriage certificate when she died. So this would have it on it. This one does say 1894. This one does say both of them on it. Now, John, her husband, was born in 1896. Okay? The problem is, she was not born in 1894, even though that's what it says on her marriage license, and that's what it says on her gravestone. Do you know why she wasn't? Do you know why it was changed? Or why she changed it, or why she didn't say it? Because she was a cougar. A cougar. She was born in 1891, and she did not want anybody to know that she was a cradle robber. So she changed her birthday on the year she had her marriage license. Okay? That's true. And this happens all the time. A lot of these things happen all the time. It was very difficult writing this because of this. We will talk about, maybe we'll show a picture of it, the snow cemetery, you know, the artist's corner and all. I have a map in the book and how you can find the different people there and all. Anyway, try the next one, see what we're doing. Okay, so these are 3 discoveries. Go ahead again. There you go. History's everywhere. We talked about that. Here we go. This is this one. There we go. Okay, next one. So we talked about these. Okay, I think I'm right on everything because I did a lot of research, but some of you are saying, well, this guy's full of baloney. He really doesn't know he's saying. Okay, next thing. Oh, it's 7:57. Look at that. I can end it right now if I want. See, that's another ending. But I'll go through a couple of things. Just do the next one for a second. These are just some of the places. Keith Car Company. Anybody know about the Keith Car Company down here? It was a mile-long car company. Okay? It was huge. It was huge. They imported all their workers from Italy there. Okay? They said if you walk down the street, you would hear everybody speaking in Italian. The buildings were mile long. Mile long. Okay? Big railroad sidings and everything else. Very interesting place. They say they might have the first mall. Good stories in here. The first mall in Cape Cod could have been there. They had their own doctor, they had their own stores, they had all sorts of stuff. Anyway, go ahead. Let's see. Oh, here's 100. This is that little section right here of Sandwich right here. Okay. Oh, the Great Hidden Brickworks. Oh, I'll talk about that for a second. Okay. And then I did put in stuff like Scargo Tower because I wanted to get people from other upcape. You've been to Scargo Tower. Have you ever been to the burial ground across and down the street and all? Okay, that's an interesting place. It's hard to find on 6A until you found it, and then you can figure out the way to get down there and all. It's really a nice place. It's very interesting. It's by the water. Go to the next one, Bert. Next one. That's not it. Okay, yeah, this is what you see with the 241st. If you walk up the hill, you'll see these tunnels here. It's shaped like a T. This is the top of the T. There's gun emplacements here you can see. You can walk up over here, and you can see, the view they had. Okay, next one. This is the West Barnstable Brick Company. Okay, so it's up here, and you've been there, right? Swampy, it used to be. Very interesting place. They made, I want to get this right, they made in 87, 2 million bricks a year. 2 million bricks a year. 1925, a guy by the name of Hardin bought it. How many bricks do you think they were making in the 1920s? How many bricks do you think they could be making in the bog up here above the railroad track? We'll be done in a second. I'll skip. Okay, but this is an interesting thing. Okay, they made 100,000 bricks a day. Okay, 30 million bricks a year. 30 million bricks a year they made here. You never heard of the place. Huh? Interesting enough, why didn't you hear about the place? Very quick end story of this. So in the 20s, you know, Hoover was there, he invented the vacuum cleaner. He was the president, okay? And he was sick and tired of buying shoes, but they had to measure his shoes. He was sick and tired, he couldn't go in and buy a pair of pants. They have to measure that, you know, and all this stuff, because nothing was standardized. And you know, there was a screw and he had a bolt, but they wouldn't work like this. Nothing. You go out and get eggs, you don't buy a dozen eggs. You don't buy a quarter or a gallon or whatever of milk. You don't buy anything. You don't buy a 2x4. Not standardized. Okay? He said, we're standardizing these things. So they standardized everything, including bricks. Okay? How many bricks did I say these guys were making in a year? 30 million in a year. Okay? He came out with the standards. They looked, aha! Their bricks were 1/8 of an inch too small. 1/8 of an inch. So the guy said, oh no, what am I going to do? He said, I just put all this money in, I got a telephone and all the rest of the stuff. Oh, Jesus, I don't know what to do. So he hired these professionals. And these professionals went out, they bored all these holes, you know, and all these pits. This has to be a huge layout right up there on the hill. You can get, it's very easy to get to. No matter what Julie says, you know, oh, it's not pretty good. Oh, it's not good. Okay, boarded up. They came back and they said, 50 years, no problem, 30 million bricks. You could even increase it. There's so much clay up there. Okay, and he was happy as anything. A couple of weeks later, just like your toilet, the bog backed up through all those little holes and flooded everything. And he said, I can't do anything. He was out of business. So in the 1920s, they were making 30 million bricks. And in the 1930s, they were gone. Anyway, we have a lot of things. Go to the next one. If you go up there, these walls are still there, right? It's really neat. You walk up the railroad tracks, and there's all sorts of broken stuff. You walk into the woods, and there are, you know, cellar things there, and there are little low walls. A lot of broken bricks around, and the walls, I mean, these things are 100 years old at least, you know, and they're still there. Okay, I guess I'll stop now because you guys don't want to listen to me anymore. Anybody have any questions? Okay, very quick, so very quickly, these things are, I'm not out to hawk these, but they're $19, but you can have them for $15 if you want. We've got them back there. The reason is because I signed my name in them, and it says signed by author, and nobody will want them. I'm 80 going, I'm eating a dozen donuts on the way home, and I'm not getting that fast. So if I drop dead tonight, you might be able to get your money back. Thank you very much. I hope you have.